But moving on to what we think actually could potentially be a team that takes the division away from the Chiefs is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers, who, frankly, I really like what they have done in the offseason, particularly around protecting Justin Herbert. So just kind of getting into it immediately. They had the worst offensive line last year, according to PFF, and it wasn't actually really even that close. And they did a complete overhaul of their offensive line, with one exception. Brian Bulaga. Bulaga. Okay, I like Bugala better. Bugala. But Brian Bulaga is staying at right tackle. They're bringing him back, and he's actually been very reliable for them. But injuries have been a concern. They did draft Brennan James in the 5th round as a potential swing tackle that could come in just in case. But they drafted Rashawn Slater, arguably the best offensive tackle in the draft if it wasn't for Penei Sewell. But then they brought in Corey Linsley, one of the best centers in the league from Green Bay. Then they brought in Matt Fiedler from Pittsburgh, who has been very solid up there. He'll probably play right guard. And then left guard, Ode Obushi, I believe, from Detroit, who has also been a very reliable left guard. All those guys are improvements from whoever was playing on their offensive line last year. And I say that because with an abysmal offensive line last year, Justin Herbert in 15 games threw for 4,336 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. And he also ran for 234 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, like I'm saying, you've already increased your protection for Justin Herbert, and Justin Herbert can be a game changer. They're going to be a scary team to watch for me in the AFC West if that offensive line can become cohesive and protect not only Justin Herbert, but also open up running lanes for Austin Eckler, who should be a 1,000-yard rusher, especially with the 17-game season.
Yeah, no. And if you guys watched our bold prediction for the Los Angeles Chargers, you know how I feel about Justin Herbert. I think he can be an MVP candidate, and I mean, he and Patrick Mahomes are going to be duking it out for the next 10, 15 years in the NFL. And I cannot be more excited to watch. I mean, he's thrown to Keenan Allen. They just drafted a guy, Josh Reynolds from Tennessee.
Josh Palmer.
And then they also still have Mike Williams there, who's kind of a deep ball, jump ball guy. That offense is going to be scary with Justin Herbert there alone. But I think this defense is going to be slightly underrated because Derwin James and Joey Bosa are both coming back from injury this year. And if people remember from Derwin James' rookie year, he had a very similar impact on the defensive side of the ball that Justin Herbert did on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, big hits, interceptions, playing great in coverage. So if they can play like really solid two-sided football, they're going to be able to score points with the Chiefs, but then play better defense than them.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that they're going to it's very unlikely that they're going to steal the division from the Chiefs. But they have a shot.
They have a shot.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, I would say they're I don't want to say a lock to be a wild card team, but I think that's the floor for them. If they don't make the playoffs this year, then that'd be a disappointing season just with the talent that they have. The only question mark I think for me is they could have an underrated defense, yes, but their defense is also extremely young. Their nose tackle, Linvin Joseph, is the oldest guy. He's at 32. Everyone else, if I'm not mistaken, I believe is like 25 or 26 or younger. So it's going to be Michael Davis is going to be coming back as their CB1. But then there's going to be an open competition really for the next cornerback spot. Asante Samuel Jr., who they drafted in the 2nd round. I would predict that he would probably fall into that spot. He's very high regarded coming out of Florida State, and so I think he can fall into that spot. But there'll be a couple other guys that are there. But yeah, I think bringing back Joey Bosa, and then another one, Uchenna Nwasu as well, I believe. I believe they were both their sack leaders last year. So if they can be consistent and not make too many mistakes, especially with it being a young defense and travel well, then I think they could compete very well against the Chiefs and at worst be a wild card spot.
Yeah.
But and that's if all cylinders are going. One thing as well is I think Justin Herbert that we haven't mentioned, another weapon he can throw to is they did sign Jared Cook from New Orleans as well to come in, and they drafted Trey McKitty out of Georgia. I think it's that's going to be an interesting tandem to watch because I think Trey McKitty is kind of a big tight end receiver person, similar to from what I've read, similar to what a Kyle Pitts kind of provides to Atlanta. Not nearly as good as Kyle Pitts, but just saying. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, no. And one of the things too, so you said that like if they don't make the playoffs, that the season would be a disappointment, and I agree. Like they are aiming for the playoffs, like that is their expectation. But I think if they go 12-5 and they're like the 8th seed and they miss out on the wild card by that, like that it's a tough pill to swallow. But I still feel like they're on the come up versus so let's say like New England beats them in their week 8 matchup, and then both teams end up going 12-5, and New England would get the upper hand because they have the head-to-head win.
Yeah,
right.
12-5. We're talking about 12
to swallow. Wait, what?
Sorry. Finish your point.
Oh, okay, I was like, while it's a tough pill to swallow, the improvement from last year to this year would be so significant that I still even think, even if they don't make the playoffs, Justin Herbert would still be an MVP candidate.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they go 12-5, I think they could potentially win the division. I mean, if you go 12-5 and don't make the playoffs, I don't know, that'd be absolutely insane. But I do get what your point is. If they go 12-5 and don't make the playoffs, if they 12-5 don't make the playoffs, that would be absolutely insane. That the fact that they were.
I picked 12-5 because I have them going 12-5, and they're my 7 seed.
Who's the 8 seed and what's the record?
The 8 seed is Miami at 9-8.
Okay, so that's a big. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like each division in the AFC has 2 or 3 really good teams, and then there's another team that's kind of suffering.
Yeah.
For example, the AFC South has Indiana and Tennessee, and then Jacksonville and Houston are kind of down at the bottom.
Yeah,
and then in the AFC North, you have Cleveland and Baltimore, and then I think Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are down at the bottom.
Well, Cincinnati will definitely be. Pittsburgh, we believe they will be. I mean, they did start out 11-0, but as we mentioned, but I do get what you're saying. AFC East will be interesting. But that's a good point because then if you take, so there's 4 divisions, and then let's say Buffalo, New England, Cleveland, Baltimore, Indianapolis, Tennessee, and Kansas City and Los Angeles. We believe all 8 of those teams are going to be at least double-digit winners this year.
Yeah.
So it is possible that who was out actually in your prediction? Who was out?
Baltimore.
Baltimore went 9-8.
So Miami and Baltimore. I had
Okay. All right. I see that.
Yeah, because I have the Chargers, Kansas City Chargers, Buffalo, New England, Indianapolis, Tennessee, and then Cleveland.
Man, I can even see Miami potentially competing with the Chargers for that final spot. The AFC is loaded. They are absolutely loaded.
It really is.
And so it's going to be interesting then, and still focusing on the Chargers, so to say. We're looking at the numbers, and this is Justin Herbert's rookie year, so hopefully he doesn't have a sophomore slump or anything like that. But it's his team now. He has the full reins. And they're giving him the offensive line that he needs. Mm-hmm. He has the weapons that they want. Is it not a a face of the franchise type receiver like Tyreek Hill, so to say, or something like that. No. But the combination of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Jalen Gooten, Josh Palmer is going to be a big receiver. Jared Cook as well now, their new tight end.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of solid options to go to, and Austin Eckler's no joke. I think he could be a 1,000-yard rusher this season. Everything's going to be there. I think probably just going to be the biggest thing for me is just going to be their defense. Yes, they could be underrated, but they could also be still overrated as well. A lot of young pieces still coming in that's still going to be growing and developing. If they do still develop and progress, then we could see improvements from them because they were 23rd overall last year. But they do have a solid defensive front, as you mentioned already, with Joey Bosa leading the way. It's going to be the other pieces, I think, to see how they end up developing. But like I said, I would love to see the Chargers do well. I remember we watched, I think it was a random like Saturday night game. It might have been Thanksgiving weekend or something like that. And we were down home in Atlanta when we watched them come back and beat the Raiders. And they were just a fun team to watch. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they progress. There's going to be a lot of fun games to watch, especially with the Chargers on the schedule as well. So,
yeah, no, definitely. And I think those they have like some flex matchups, like when they play Kansas City, because they play Kansas City twice later in the season. I think those might get flexed to primetime. Oh no, they only play them once. They play in week 15, but those might get flexed into some primetime. Those will be some good games to see.
I could see that if they're both 11-3, or one's 10-3 and then 9-4. I'm not sure what the record would be at that time. I can see that game being a Sunday night game, and I could also see myself having a couple beers watching that game. So, that'll be a fun one to watch. It'll be fun to come back and do a Sunday night football recap of that game potentially.
But yeah. So, anyways, I think that's going to wrap up for the Chargers. High hopes for the Chargers. Trying to keep Chargers fans' expectations realistic, but also get excited. I mean, I think the Chargers are finally going to really be good.